Absolutely the same story. Um, Chelsea versus Bournemouth, the same story for a long time. Welcome to the Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing us. It's the post-match analysis: Chelsea versus Bournemouth, Manchester United versus Brighton and Hove Albion, and of course Barcelona's drubbing of Real Betis. Here, Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Do all to like, subscribe, and share. It's your best place for all sports analysis. Do all to like, subscribe, and share. Turn on your notification button and select all. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. Thank you for joining us. Let us get into it. So, yesterday, Manchester United did play against Brighton and Hove Albion, and it was an intriguing matchup. Actually, it was a Manchester United without Anthony, and then of course Jadon Sancho, given the off the field issues that they have for each of them. On the same day also, Mason Greenwood, who is on loan for Manchester United for also off the field issues to Getafe, played his first game for the Spanish La Liga side. Now let's go into the game in itself. Of course, Roberto Di Zerbi and his Brighton side went into a 4-2-3-1. Four players at the back, two midfield of Dawood and Grots, and then up top, there was a Dingra, Cairo Mitoma, and of course, through the middle, there was Danny Welbeck. Essentially, it was a change in Manchester United, and I think it was a smart one nominally, it was a smart one on paper. Again, if you look at Manchester United, Erik Ten Hag opted to go for 4-1-2-1 to a 4-diamond-2 shape, with the four players at the back being Lindelof, Leandro Martinez, Diogo Dalot, and then of course you had Serge Reguilon. In the middle of the park, however, the deepest player was Casemiro. On the left and on the right of him, you have Eriksen and then of course Scott McTominay. Bruno Fernandes at the tip of the diamond, and of two players on top, and Marcus Rashford and Erasmus Højlund up top. I think essentially, if you look at the plan Erik Ten Hag took into this game, it was a brilliant one. The plan was to prevent central progression, because that is where Brighton are most dangerous. They bait you into the press, then they cut through you centrally, then they make everything happen. So that was the plan for Brighton. So if you watch the game from about the first thing to about 20 to 25 minutes, Brighton found it very, very difficult to play through Manchester United's central blockage or central congestion, and the fact that they made it very difficult. Of course, the 4-1-2-1-2 is a formation that's able to prevent central cuts through from opposing teams. But the thing is that the biggest issue with the 4-1-2-1-2 is you would have to either shuffle quickly from a 4-1-2-1-2 into a flat 4-4-2 to be able to defend wide areas. And that is where Manchester United did not play well. Of course, if we look at that game, Marcus Rashford was supposed to play as a shadow to prevent it. In the first part of the game, he helped. I think there are two reasons why Manchester United lost this game. First of all, Marcus Rashford's off the ball lackadaisical attitude. When Brighton did shift and decided to overload the left-hand side where Tariq Lamptey was. Now, Rashford had to do a lot more. Of course, when Pascal Gross was told by his manager to make a lot of movements also in central areas, Marcus Rashford had to do a lot more. But he failed to do that. It was much more lackadaisical. And then they found options. So if you look at those balls where Brighton scored, two of them were assists from Tariq Lamptey from outside, because Manchester United are closed down central areas, but there were a lot of spaces from wide areas for them to deal with. They couldn't shuffle from a 4-diamond-2 to a 4-4-2 flat to deal with a wide area threat that Brighton possessed. And of course, also when Groves decided to do the off-the-ball runs and get in front of Rashford, same with Dawood. And then of course you had Adingra and then Mitoma pinning the fullbacks. When almost every time also, because if you have the wingers pinning the fullbacks, and you have constantly a wing back or a fullback that's always running and getting in behind, then there's trouble. And that's exactly how Tariq Lamptey got those two assists for Brighton and Hove Albion. I think it was a brilliant shape nominally from Erik Ten Hag, but essentially the bigger problem is the fact that how do you deal with this with the in-game management? Ten Hag lost this with the in-game management. Roberto Di Zerbi was able to change. Ten Hag wasn't able to change, and that's how you have it. It's a story of football. You fail to adjust, somebody adjusts, they beat you. I think Manchester United's problems go beyond just the manager. I think there's a lot more that the team has to do. In football tactics, execution is a very, very important part. Sometimes the nominal formation tactics will go on. In-game management is down to the manager, but execution is also down to the players. And I think that's where Manchester United are now. You would want to assess Erik Ten Hag properly when he has a fully fledged Manchester United team. then you make a proper assessment of him. As it stands now, I think it's too early. I think it's going to be a little bit off the top if you want to call for the head of everything. He's a good manager, given his job that he has done in Ajax, but it's still late days yet, especially in this season. I think he can turn it around. Now, Barcelona, brilliant. They played some good football. Yesterday's formation was one of the best I've seen Barcelona playing, and most importantly because João Cancelo came on onto the game very brilliant from outside, dictated the pace of the game. He loves to play as an attacking fullback. I mean, you can talk about his issues defensively and what's not. But there were times not long ago when we were speaking a lot about how Cancelo will come inverted for Manchester City and what's not. In the game yesterday against Real Betis, he was brilliant at that. The inverted runs, keeping the weight. I mean, he was able to do it and get the balance, most importantly, for Barcelona. But I think yesterday, if you've listened to my analysis about Barcelona for a very long time, I've kept on saying that the bigger problem with Barcelona is not the bigger problem in Barcelona and the Robert Lewandowski not scoring. It's not because they can't score or what's not. It's not because Robert Lewandowski has forgotten how to score, but it's because they don't have inside number 10s, they don't have connectors, they don't have people that will liaise. And yesterday, João Felix was brilliant at that. If you look at that link-up play, that depth touch that played Robert Lewandowski through to get that goal, it was brilliant. And it's just by the fact that he is a brilliant connector. For Lewandowski, central areas, you need somebody to be a good connector like that. He had it with Jamal Musiala several times. He had it with Gundogan when he was at Dortmund. And this time, he got it very, very well from João Felix. And that's how good the Barcelona team. I think there's a lot of good job that has gone into Barcelona, actually. And if you look at the kind of squad that they've built, giving just 323.4 million, they've done a brilliant job. Matteo Alemany, Xavi, they've done a yeoman's job yesterday. They have a fair balance of attacking-minded players and defensive-minded players with some depth, of course, after they've incorporated some academy players from La Masia and Cinema. So Barca are there, actually, and they played very good yesterday. João Felix, Lewandowski, Cancelo. I can't wait for João Felix to play against Atletico Madrid and see what he brings to them. Now, to the most latest one, it's Chelsea's game against AFC Manutd. Same story. It is the same story of Chelsea having a lot of time and space, like our graphics I'm showing, controlling possession, having the ball most times, having the extra man. But then the big two problems of Chelsea Football Club are two: the final ball and then the final touch. Now, the final ball is the the final pass to the striker. Chelsea have failed at it several times. When Cole Palmer came on, I believe he was going to give Chelsea that. He failed at it a couple of times. They got into very dangerous areas to break down Bournemouth. The progression was brilliant. Leslie Ogochukwu, one of the most brilliant players in the Chelsea jersey today, very comfortable on the ball. Maybe because Brighton Bournemouth didn't essentially target him as a press, but then he was good in terms of build-up. Bournemouth also knew how to shuffle between the high press and then drop him back. Their fullbacks also did a brilliant job on Sterling and then Mihailo Modric. Mihailo Modric in the first half had some good moments, but then of course at some point in time he dropped his shoulder and then failed to put in a fight. That's his biggest problem. He needs to be putting in a fight. You can't just be giving in games like this. You need to constantly be pushing. I think the only good side from this game is that Chelsea have managed to keep a clean sheet. Chelsea has gotten off the hook. They were defensively a little bit more solid. This game where Ben Chilwell started off from the bench, I think it was justified when he came on. He wasn't really sharp in the middle of the park. Chelsea had that control that they wanted to get. The bigger problem was breaking down Bournemouth. And it's the same story we've said from Chelsea, the same story we've had from Chelsea since the season began. It's nothing really new, actually. But I think that these are things that you need time for. I know if you're a Chelsea fan, it's excruciating. But that's the reality. That's the reality. These things only come with time. These teams only go with time. And it is with time that these players are going to have that. So you only have to have time. I'm sorry. It's not going to come earlier than you expect as a Chelsea fan. But in those final touch, those final balls, and the final piece of the puzzle for Chelsea Football Club. And that will need time, actually. But apart from that, the players need to be composed. They need to calm down. They need to be much more relaxed in the 18-yard box and get those swings. But yeah. That's the post-match analysis. 3 games: Manchester United, Barcelona, Chelsea. Jordan Curtis here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Thank you. Do all to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification button. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. I'm grateful. Adios. See you tomorrow. Bye.